Good morning, everybody. If I look up this way, I think now it looks like I'm looking at you, but I'm trying to, let's see, I want to look at the whole field of you here. There we go. Um, yeah, I was scanning earlier. Many of you who, it's just good to see you again. There's so many of you that I haven't seen in a while. And we have people tuning in from all over, overseas and around the United States and Canada. And some of you, well, many of you I know and I've met. Others of you, I know your names, and it's nice to see you finally. So, and I'm sure there's many others as well. So anyway, it's good to have you all here. And we've been hearing from people, and there's a lot of interest in, people want to get together and for Zazen and online, which we haven't really proposed anything along those lines, and we probably won't, but I want to say a little bit about that today. That's kind of what I want to talk about. I think that this Zoom device that we have is very workable, very good for things like this, giving talks where there's actual audio or visual communication. But in Zazen, that's a different activity, and it's really not only is it not really necessary there. If it was just simply not necessary, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But it's actually, from my understanding of what this practice is, it's quite detrimental, and I want to say something about that, or at least it certainly can be, and it almost most likely will be not helpful for you at all. At least not if your interest is in waking up to reality, to truth. And that's what I want to talk about here. This is not usual activity. And as Dogen said as well, it has nothing to do with sitting or lying down. But of course, and almost entirely associated with sitting, we call it sitting, and sitting meditation. Zazen means sitting meditation. But it isn't just simply that we sit down and become quiet and still. Also, there's some confusion too about we do teach and point out that it's very helpful to take up this practice and to sit with other people. Yes, if they're right there in the same physical space with you. But all of that is canceled out when we do this through electronic means, actually, whatever it is that is helpful for us in sitting with others. That is not enhanced. In fact, it's kind of diminished to the extent that we feel that we need to take this up online or to sit together with other people. So anyway, this is what I want to talk about this morning. And let's look at this issue about, because many people have expressed, particularly at this time of our quarantine, our isolation from each other, the social distancing and all of that. It's difficult for many people, and that's quite understandable. And wouldn't this be a way of being together? Well, yes, but why is it that you feel disconnected in the first place, or isolated, or separated from others, or locked into your own personal self, your own personal body, separate and apart from others? This is what we need to understand. And it will be difficult to wake up to this, to what our problem really is here in regards to this, if we continue to, I don't know, do things that enhance that separation. And I think one of the ways that we enhance that separation, or that feeling of separation, is with the idea that now maybe we can connect ourselves via Zoom or Skype or something like that. I don't know what other ways people might be doing this. but Zoom certainly has taken off. And again, I think it's very helpful for what we're doing right now, because there is speech going on, and and visual communication as well. But this is not our activity of meditation or zazen. That is kind of a solitary thing in a way. But we do say it's helpful to sit with others, and that is true. It is. But and then we might want to know, well, how? Well, there's all kinds of things that I have pointed out. It encourages us to come back to this activity periodically if we're doing this with other people. It's a way of kind of checking ourselves against others. That all these things are kind of helpful for steadying the mind. But that's very helpful when you're actually in real contact with people, and not through some visual image on a screen or through some audio device or something like that. The mind that we are activating through this practice is a mind of wholeness and totality. This is what we don't understand. And we want to keep activating the mind of separation and distinction. I'm separate from you. I'm a distinct, separate personality apart from other. I would like to connect with others, but as something alone and apart unto myself. I need this kind of companionship or whatever. And there's something to be said for that. We can all feel that. And there's nothing wrong with that exactly. But if this is what we continue to look for, then we really don't understand this practice. We are actually kind of living out of our ordinary mind that already automatically, we could say, sees ourselves as separate and apart from others, or even from the activity that we're in. And sometimes we can begin to resent that, the other people, the situation. Certainly, we all seem to be in a difficult situation today. This is very inconvenient that we have this social distancing, and it can cause all kinds of problems and difficulties for us. But this is the mind. This is our ordinary mind of ego, of self, of separation. And then we want to take this mind and somehow marry it, connect it with others in some way, to establish maybe some deep connection with others. Rather, we do that because we don't know of this true mind that we are already activating and living out of. Our actual direct perceptual experience is of totality, of the whole. But there isn't any separation right from the very start. Were we to wake up to this and to see this, we wouldn't feel the kinds of vexations and loneliness and frustrations and difficulties that we otherwise easily fall into. So again, this is what I want to talk about then. So this, if I can use this example that we have it in our teachings, mountains are mountains. When I first started studying Zen, when I first began to practice, I came to it thinking mountains are mountains. I mean, it's not just thinking, understand this is my reality. I saw it in this way, I understood it in this way. It never occurred to me there was any other way to see it or view it. That mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers. And it makes a lot of sense to us. And then I am here, maybe I can walk among the mountains through, across the rivers and connect with these various things. Of course, mountains and rivers can stand for virtually anything you might encounter or come to in your life. And these things are real and they're out there. And maybe I want to commune with these things in some way. And so we reach out and try to carry out that activity in some way to maybe satisfy this deep inner need of the heart that we have, that we want to be connected, without recognizing or even making the attempt, because we don't really understand that this can be done, but that we can wake up to the fact that there isn't any separation in the first place. And in sitting in meditation, this is what we're sitting out of. And it is like Well, I've often told the story of Yakusan Egan, who was actually in the lineage that Norm and I inherited from Katagiri Roshi. He's one of our ancestors, Yakusan Egan, and his teacher, Sekito Kizun, the author of The Merging of Difference in Unity. But Yakusan, you've heard, I'm sure most of you have heard me use this example, but he's just sitting in meditation, and Sekito, his teacher, comes along and says, "What are you doing?" And Yakusan says, "I'm not doing anything." And so then Sekito asks him, well, what is it you're not doing? And well, excuse me, I jumped ahead. He said, "So you're sitting idly," Sekito said to him. And Yakusan said, "If I were sitting idly, I'd be doing something." But he's not doing anything, you see. You can say, well, he's talking to Sekito. We're talking about mind and the actual living out of wholeness and totality here. Sekito's testing him, and do you really see this? So he says, he said, "So what is it you're not doing?" And Yakusan said, "Even Buddhas don't know. Even the awakened don't know. They don't know conceptually. They don't have an idea about this. They don't have any concept of this, nor are they seeking it, or anything for that matter. Buddhas do not seek. They do not search about. They do not feel there's something separate and apart that I need to find, to go after, to take possession of, or to identify with, or something like this. The reason they don't is because it's like it's like a flat Earth question to them. Somebody asking about the edge of the Earth, or does it go on forever? If we don't understand, people might about the Earth say we don't understand it, so we ask questions like this. But for people like us who understand that we're living on a sphere, it doesn't have an edge, and it doesn't go on forever. But we'll say things in response to that will be perplexing to someone who still hasn't got it in their core, in their visceral understanding of reality, that this is the case. So it's very, whatever you respond with might be a little confusing to you if you were this flat earther. Like so, when we first approach this kind of teaching and this understanding of what our practice is, it's very subtle and quite profound. And very few people really come to understand it and wake up to it. But if we do come to see what this practice is, this sense that we have of separation and loneliness and all the potentials, the irritations, the anger, the various things that can come up through those feelings and understandings, just simply do not arise in this moment when we are very settled and right here with what is taking place. And that is what our meditation is. And this is why I don't want to institute something else that will actually kind of reinforce our regular idea that we are separate. Now we want to get connected. There's something quite profound and quite different from this usual approach that will totally erase any kind of anxiety or feeling of loneliness or irritation or anything at all that comes from seeing yourself as separate and apart from others, or from the very life that you're actually living. It isn't you who's living this life. It is the life of totality itself, the life of reality that's unfolding here. And we can completely engage this and still have our own life, our own personality. We're not snuffed out in any way or something like this. We're still here as a separate self. And but this isn't. We don't quite realize this at first unless we can taste that second step. First we have that mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers, that things are things, and I am me, separate from you, and all of this. But then, if we continue to practice in this way of just like Yakusan, just sitting down, doing nothing, not having ideas about what he's doing, not having ideas about what this meditation is, or what I want to get, that I can connect now with others in some way, or that I want to, I don't know, acquire something, become enlightened or something like this. We can stay away from this kind of confusion and misunderstanding if we don't continue to take this up in our ordinary way. And once again, I'm afraid that these attempts to do these connections through electronic means and this sort of thing, as nice as it is to get together, and this I think is wonderful that we get together to have some discussion or a talk or this sort of thing. But the meditation practice is something radically different from this. And this is difficult. It's difficult for me to get this across. And it was difficult enough for me to finally wake up to it and to realize what my teacher, Katagiri Roshi, was always pointing out. Misunderstanding things, little cues that he was dropping all over the place and misunderstanding them repeatedly until finally I began to really see what this was. And I don't want to carry out a practice here that isn't going to be helpful for you. I can't really, in all honesty, I can't take it up. I can't do that to you. And so that's why I really don't want to go that route. But I'll say more about that if I remember anyway at the end. Again, about what we can do and what we are doing. But anyway, but this kind of confusion, this is where we are when we're in that first stage. Mountains are mountains and rivers are, and this is where most of us are. There's a mountain, it's a mountain, it's there, it's out there. But it could be a dog or a cat or somebody else, or a rock or a stone or a tree, or even a thought or a feeling that comes sweeping through our mind. And it's something real and definite and distinct and separate from other things that I can identify, passing through my mind or passing in front of me in some way. This is our reality, and that's all there is to it. It's that, and now out of this, I want to construct something that will be peaceful and give me a mind of understanding and completeness. But it won't, that's not the approach. That will not work. It is just simply like Yakusan, sitting down, doing nothing. What is this that you're not doing then? And even Buddhists don't know. They don't have ideas about this, nor do I. I'm not, and if you feel that I'm trying to give you an idea about what this meditation is, then that's not my understanding of what I'm trying to do here. I don't want to give you ideas about this. I want to encourage you just to take up this practice and just to do it, and to watch your mind and to notice when things are coming up in your mind, or any kind of beliefs or ideas that you have about meditation and how it might help you or make you better or calm you down. And yeah, and a lot of these things will take place. Yeah, sure. Become more calm and all of this. There's these kinds of things will happen. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that or that, but what I'm saying is don't have any ideas about this when you take it up. Just sit down. Shikantaza is often translated as just sitting. That's it. There's no, but the Yakusan. Just sitting, not sitting with ideas or beliefs or concepts or how this might be benefiting me or something like this. You can just sit in this way, and once we can begin to do it, so again, really dropping the ideas. Even ideas like this is good or this is something I should be doing, weighing it out, this is a proper kind of practice, other ways are not proper, all of that kind of thinking. Drop it. Just drop it. Dogen said, this is why you don't wake up. This is it. This is it in a nutshell. The reason we remain confused and we don't wake up to this practice is because we're holding ideas about it. We have concepts about it. We'll even start working on our own projects to maybe set it up in a certain way that can bring in others and stuff like this without really understanding what it is we're even doing in the first place. We think we do because it's so simple. You just come in and you sit in a certain way in a chair or cross-legged on the floor or whatever, kneeling. But, and you just focus your mind and set your eyes a certain way and all of this. These are all very simple instructions. And we think that that's all there is to it. but there's all of this with the mind, which we don't understand. And we're just kind of looking at the physical forms and things that we go through when we take up this practice, and then we think, okay, I understand. And it is good to understand those things. There are some ways of sitting, holding the back and all of this that are far better than others in terms of calming your mind and settling the mind, all that sort of thing. But this practice is far more than that. And it has to do with your mind and the understanding of your mind. And that's what I'm trying to help you with here. And again, so I don't want to, I know there's many other places and teachers and centers and stuff online, all the stuff that you can engage in. And that's fine. I'm not even going to try to stop you if that's really what you want to do. But my concern here is for anyone who comes to me here and wants some instruction or to practice, my concern with you is I want to help you wake up. And this is the sole concern that I have for you. And I'll watch for these things that might come along, and should we do this and that? Well, I'll look at them for a while. So sometimes it's obvious to me, or something else. Like, hey, that's a good idea. I'll look at that. And I have been looking at this because there has been so much expression or desire to take up something like this. But again, I can't do it and be true to my own understanding here. And so I'm not going to do that. But I'll tell you what we can do, though. But I just want to go on a little further here with this, the second stage. I was saying, I don't, maybe I didn't say it yet, but in taking this up and in practicing for a time, then we get to this place. It's expressed in that the thing about mountains and rivers. It's expressed as we come to realize that mountains are not mountains and rivers are not rivers, and that things are not as they seem, that things are not separate and apart. There's a kind of unity or oneness of all the things that otherwise seem divided and separate. And we can come to have a visceral understanding of this in the meditation, or it doesn't have to be in any formal meditation. Meditation can take place at any time while you're walking or any other time. But in the settling of the mind, this kind of understanding can come to you, and it comes to many people. Often expressed in terms of when people feel this, have the expression that all is one. You have a profound sense of oneness and unity, and and if there's still a sense of, say, belonging to all beings and to other people and all this sort of thing, that still has a large element of separation in it. But this can become even more refined, and so where you really don't see much in the way of the separations at all. And we might think in terms that all is one. And many people take this to be enlightenment, that this is the correct and final understanding of this, of reality, what is really happening here. Well, I would say this is a necessary, what can I say? It's necessary to come to this realization at some point. But this isn't enlightenment, as Sekito says in the Merging a Difference in Unity. I believe this is where it is. He says that, what is it now? Merging with absolute is still not enlightenment. And this is the absolute. And by the way, too, I haven't mentioned this yet, but for those of you who might have heard some of my teachings on symmetry that I've offered in the last couple of years now, there we have it right here in these first two phases of this. Mountains are mountains and mountains are not mountains. The mountains are mountains phases. Things coming and going, the world of birth and death and this and that, our usual take on the world and our understanding of myself in it. I was born, I'm surviving for a time now, and then at some point I will die, as everything else comes into existence and exists for a time, and then it goes out of existence. Yeah, that's all. Mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers, and that's how it appears. Again, we don't say that this is wrong or mistaken or it's crazy or whatever, but it's just not the full understanding of what's actually taking place here. With this additional understanding that mountains are not mountains, rivers are not rivers, this is coming to an understanding of kind of seeing things in terms of an absolute view or something along those lines. And here we have the two truths. We have comings and goings, the relative truth, where we find ourselves as an ego, and then we can come to this understanding of oneness and totality that can really deepen and it can really penetrate our heart and minds with a very profound understanding. And again, some people think that this, and it can come on very quickly and or gradually, but often very quickly. And it can even be passed through very quickly into a full understanding. But people do think very often that this understanding then of the absolute, if we want to put it that way, I'm not too fond of using that expression, but that this is true enlightenment. And but no, we find that's what is the full understanding, the ultimate understanding, the ultimate realization is in that third line of the mountains are mountains and mountains are not mountains. And that's when we come to that mountains are mountains. So first we have mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers. This is delusion. Then we come to, we may, if we practice properly without a lot of ideas like Yakusan, we may come to the understanding that mountains are not mountains and rivers are not rivers. And I am not I, you are not you. And which can sound kind of silly in a way to anybody still caught up in mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers. But again, this is still delusion, that I am not I and you are not you and the tree is not the tree and Zazen is not Zazen, and on and on we go. A misunderstanding, misinterpretation, say the Heart Sutra, no eyes, no ears, and not really quite understanding what that is saying. But that's this second one, but this is still delusion. Finally, we come to that mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers, the end. And with this understanding, we haven't thrown away the first understanding that mountains are mountains. We haven't thrown away the understanding that mountains are not mountains. I hope you understand when I'm saying mountains, you could put anything you want there. Not necessarily a physical thing, but a mental image or a thought or a belief or whatever, but you can put anything there. First, it's real to us. It's ultimately real. And then we can come to realize that actually, we might start to realize that you take hold of that real thing and you start to realize that you can't. And then you realize that that thing is not that thing. And that's when that strikes, again, that could seem like enlightenment. But if we continue to practice in this way, we realize that these are not two. This is Sekito's The Merging of Difference in Unity. That first one is difference. The second one is unity. And in the third, mountains are back to mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers. This is the merging of difference in unity. This is the realization of ultimate reality. And this is what I'm concerned with, for you. And the practice I want to help you with, and to just to realize that there is this way. It is very subtle. It is not like anything else. And it is truly unique. And I don't mean because this is Zazen and this is Soto Zen. No, we're back to the very first one, rivers are rivers again. And that is not what I'm saying. Nor am I saying that this truth is better than your truth, or we use the capital T. See, that first one would be the small t truth, mountains are mountains. Then we have the capital T truth. And well, by the time we get to the third one, it doesn't matter. Capitalize it, not capitalize it. But this is truth itself. It can't be characterized in any way whatsoever. But it is not separate and apart from that mountains are mountains and that mountains are not mountains. It isn't a blend of the two. It isn't a combination of them in some way. because to think in those terms, you're still thinking in terms of the mountains are mountains and I am I, and things are what they are. And that's not, again, that's not that final understanding. You can't say that things are any way at all whatsoever. The whole thing about things or itness or, meanness or whatever, doesn't apply anymore. Again, I don't want to keep putting in plugs for my book, but the book I've just finished really covers pretty much everything that I've learned in life regarding this teaching and practice, and it's in there in some fashion if you can read between the lines of everything that's being discussed. And it's a dialogue, so it'll be fairly easy to read, I think. But all of this that I'm saying now and that I've ever said really to you is will be in that book in some fashion, I think. Then maybe now then to bring this back, as I have cut away to on times, but in terms of taking up some kind of special sort of using the internet or Zoom or whatever other things are out there, and I'm not a techie, but this isn't why I'm rejecting it, because I'm using that stuff here with this Zoom thing, so I'm not against this kind of stuff. I think it works very well for something like this, particularly with the given circumstances that we have now, where everybody's in this strange, surreal kind of situation where we're all kind of living in isolation. It comes in very nicely for this. But when it comes to the practice of meditation, this is not business as usual. This is not the usual sort of thing that we do. And as Dogen says, it has nothing to do with sitting or lying down even. Though it is helpful for us on a regular basis to come back and to kind of just take everything off the table there, off the plate, and we just sit down and like Yakasan and do nothing and make the visual field as plain as we can facing the wall is very helpful for that. Or just facing some empty space and looking at a bare floor or whatever your circumstances might be. If we had a friend or companion or someone that we know that would take this up with us on a regular basis, that would be very, very helpful along these lines too. And then of course the watching of your mind, and to that you're not bringing up thought and judgment and evaluations and things of this sort. We watch that. We don't scold ourselves when that occurs, because quite naturally this goes on. But when we see that, we can let it go if we're mindful of this and we're not too attached to the fleeting view of the moment that we might have some emotional connection with or whatever. And that's okay if we do. It will go, because all of these things, this is the first realm there of mountains are mountains. Everything's coming and going. So you don't need to worry about these things, including the COVID-19. It's come, it seems to be around now, and it will go in some way. Maybe, I hope we don't all go with it, but I don't think that'll happen, but who knows? But it doesn't seem like it's going to be tracking along those lines. But who knows what is coming and what could come. But if we take our minds into this larger space, if we can learn to sit with everything that is taking place and to see things, really that's step 2. I call it absolute, but it's really seeing things in terms of totality, in terms of wholeness, and not in terms of the various things that appear to be coming and going, including ourselves. But that's what's taking place. Were we to see that and realize that this is an element of our experience here. And by the way, I guess I was going to connect that to symmetry when I talk about symmetry as it's understood in science today. Yeah, there's this aspect that this is the number 2 section of all mountains are mountains. The mountains are not mountains, where overall, the overall picture in totality doesn't change. It is always like this. And that will show itself in all kinds of remarkable ways in this world where everything seems to be coming and going. We can come to see that. But then with that, if we really see both of these things taking place right before us and right within us, then we can understand that these are not two. And that is finally the ultimate understanding. And as Yakusan says, even Buddhas, he says there, but they don't know. They know, but it's not a conceptual knowing. It is not something they could tell us or put it into words. But we can all wake. They're human beings too. We can all wake up to this. We can all come to realize this directly. And that's how I understand this practice. And that's what I want to encourage you to do, to just take this up. And this is what I think we can do. You can take this up, whatever your circumstances might be. I know many of you are certainly not even close to our center here. But wherever you might be, in whatever the circumstance, or maybe there is a center, a place where people are sitting together, I'd be careful of whatever kind of ideas they might be offering there about this meditation, or little techniques and gimmicks, that you can use. I talk about some of these things in my book, Meditation Now or Never. Some of these things you might just want to avoid. Keep it very simple. But even if you're at a place where people might have a more complicated understanding of meditation, you can still keep it very simple and sit with others. But I wouldn't get caught up in the intellectual or the conceptual aspects of it at all. And this is vital. Again, this is what Dogen says, to the extent that we do this, we don't wake up. And I want to help you to wake up. And so it is a matter of learning to come back, to watch your mind, and to let it settle quietly, to be as Yakusan, just doing nothing, just sitting there. Of course, he, with full attention, he wasn't drifting off or daydreaming or something. No, he wasn't doing anything. Just sitting there with full attention, full awakeness. And that's what this practice is. I just want to remind you of this now, and watch for those kinds of things and practices and gimmicks and tricks and whatever that we can do that take us away from this very, 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 very simple practice. My teachers used to say, this is so simple. This is why we found it difficult. It is so simple. It has three elements, he would say. It's just body, mind, and breath. And because you have a body, at least it appears to be the situation now. You have a mind, it appears like that. That's how this appears. This is mountains are mountains, which we don't get rid of, but there it is. But now with this place where you have a body and mind, you need the practice. And of course, then there is the breath, which is a unique thing to put your mind on. And it's, I don't know often talk. I usually talk about this when I'm giving meditation instruction. I don't talk about it so much generally, perhaps. But this this place where we put with breath, because we have a body and mind, we also breathe. But breath is a unique thing to put your mind on, because it's neither you nor the not you. It's where this apparent boundary exists between the subjective, myself, here I am, and then the objective, the world out there. The breath seems to be sitting right there, because it both seems to be you, me. We can, control our breath in any way we want, or we can forget about it entirely, and yet the breath is still there, and we can come back to it and find it once again. There's nothing else quite like that. You might be able to dig in there and find your heartbeat and put your mind on it, but that's pretty difficult. It doesn't come, and then try to control it, have it beat faster or slower. You don't have that kind of, it's me feeling that we have of my breath. I can control that quite easily compared to any other body function, your liver function, whatever. You get in there and try to get hold of that. And at the same time, again, we can set it out that we can watch it like an object, as if it's something separate from us. We can keep our mind on it. We can forget about it, come back to it, and it's still there. So there's nothing quite like this. So these are the three elements. But there isn't anything holy or special about the breath, and there's actually nothing very special about Zazen either. Another thing to keep in mind, don't think of this as some glorious practice or wonderful or powerful, or just drop all ideas, good or bad or indifferent. I mean, just don't carry thoughts about this, and you can drop most of the thoughts you have about just about everything else as well that tend to clutter our mind. Even as you're walking, down the sidewalk, just keep it simple, and what your attention is on, or driving your car. You can be fully attentive to what is taking, particularly, if you're not on the phone, certainly, but if you're not even engaging in a lot of ambitious thinking or something as you're driving. When you're driving, just drive. And this is the meditation. This is the shikan of driving. And so this is what this practice is. Don't do anything to make it special, to make you think that somehow through doing this, you're accomplishing something special or anything of that sort. Just do it. Just remember Yakusan, just sitting. Except he's not even saying that. It's just, he says, I'm not doing anything. So that's what this is. And so I want to keep this simple. And again, I was saying, I guess maybe I didn't quite complete my thoughts on this, but I think for each of us, I would encourage you, this is what I always say, and this is what we do in our practice period, just set up a schedule for yourself, one that you can do. Don't make it too ambitious. Gradually, if you want to add more to it or whatever, that's perfectly fine. But start with something that you can do. You can come back to, I would say, on a daily basis if you can, but even 3 times a week, or, I don't want to get it too thinned out, but something you can come back to on a regular basis, and then just do that. And do it in a formal way where you're not engaged in other kinds of activities. Gradually, you learn that you can take this same mind into all sorts of activities that you do during the day, because it has nothing to do with the actual sitting and lying down. But at least starting out, but I would never end this practice of just sitting is very, very helpful for all of us. And to do it at a regular basis. And at the same time, watch your mind. And because you can begin to watch your mind at those quiet times and notice all the stuff that just keeps coming up and coming up. You just don't judge it or try to control it or anything. Just let it come up. And gradually that'll begin to boil down and not bother you quite so much. It'll become weaker and less frequent, and the mind will really begin to settle. And you can take that mind into any activity at all. It really isn't, what's coming up there isn't even really your mind. It's the mind of reality or totality itself. The full understanding of everything is right there. But it's a matter of you coming to this. But you can't come to this if you have ideas about coming to this or doing it right or doing this with others that we connect in a whatever way, electronically. Again, physically, if you're together with somebody, it's very helpful in a physical space, but together. But otherwise, I wouldn't, I almost want to plead with you here, but I wouldn't make it too complicated or gimmicky. You don't need to rely on it. You have a body. You already have what you need. You have a body, you have a mind, and you have breath. And that's all you need. You don't need Zoom or anything else. The ancient masters didn't have Zoom, and they certainly had profound awakenings, many of them that we have records of today, thank goodness. Okay, maybe I've said, what time is it here? Maybe I guess I've said enough for now, but perhaps you have some questions?
Hello. First off, thank you for setting this up and for doing this. I haven't been to the Zendo for 4 or 5 years now, since I'm up in northern BC in Canada. So thank you very much for setting this up, and for everybody who is participating too. It's nice to see everybody's face again. The thing I was asking about is I have an app on my phone that I've been using for years for a timer, and it's called Insight Meditation Timer. And one of the things it does is after you finish meditating, it will show you have the option of seeing everybody who's used the app in the time frame that you were meditating, and you have the option of seeing them and also doing a message of thank you for meditating with me. So it's not, you don't have any indication before or during your meditation this is happening, but afterward you can see how many it is, and usually it's like between 3,000 to 10,000 people that are worldwide meditating. So there's some people I have as friends there from Stockholm, Sweden, to literally down the street from me that I am sometimes meditating with at the same time that I get to say thank you to. But the question I have is that too much of a connection or distraction from the being present in my present situation for what I'm doing?
Yeah, well, I wanted to say while you're talking, well, this is wonderful. If you can sit together with 10,000 people, that's all great. And so I don't even really want to knock that exactly, but yes, that's too much. What my concern is, well, what I'm going to help you with, this is where I'm always going to come back to this, and this is where I'm coming from, so to speak. I want to help you wake up. And those kinds of things are distractions, and that is not. Just remember Yakusan sitting there. This is what you need to do. Find that kind of a space, that place. It's not a space. It's in totality itself, and it is always with you. And the other thing is, you can then begin to realize that you're sitting with all beings right from the very get-go. You're always with all beings, and you'll begin to realize this and see this. And any kind of feelings of connectedness won't be necessary at that point, because the stuff that what appears to be connecting isn't really ultimately even real, and that splintered understanding of view of reality that we have isn't ultimately real. It's real enough, So I said, yeah, it's great. It would be wonderful sitting with 10,000 people, but really that's a big distraction, and it is not at all what I'm trying to help you with. It is not I can't emphasize that more. What I'm trying to help you with is not that at all. That is business as usual. That's our usual mind. It's our usual way of complicating things and playing with things. And this is what Dogen says. This is why you don't wake up. That's in, I believe it's in, I don't remember. I should know. It's in the Shobogen Zuzumanki, I think maybe book 4, but where he says, I tell you, old monks, he says, the reason you don't wake up is because you don't let go of your views. You're holding to this idea and that idea and this constructed understanding of the world and that sort of thing. Let that go, because whatever conceptual understanding we have of the world is not correct. It is not. These things are not bad, or something like that. We have to ultimately just get rid of all these. Well, no, you can't. We need our ideas and concepts and feelings of connections with friends and whatever. This is all wonderful and good. That's fine. But it's just that this activity of sitting quietly, doing nothing, is not anything like any of those things. And if you want to come to an understanding of what this reality, to even say what it is mistaken, because it isn't anything in particular, but it's just thus. But to realize what the direct experience of this is, which you already know and you are experiencing, will not be found by you if we continue to play. That, like Dogen said, this is why you don't wake up, because we hang on to views. So I just can't stress, so no matter what the layout is. And what I was thinking a couple of weeks ago when I kind of brought this, when I last talked on Zoom, I was saying that maybe we could just let people know when we're sitting here. But I'm talking with Steve and Norm about this, and they said just kind of what I could feel in the pit of my stomach, that no, this isn't really the way to go, and that isn't what our practice is here. So, and I know it would probably be popular. Maybe we could rope in a lot more people or something if we started playing games like this, but that's not what this is, and I can't bring myself to do it, really.
Leave that for the yoga studios.
Yeah, well, yeah, whoever wants to take it up, that's fine. And if any of you want to do that too, I mean, I'm not going to chase you down. I don't chase anybody down, but whoever comes to me, I'll tell you how I understand this. And that's all.
Right.
And I won't play games with you. So, I'll give you the truth or the way to practice as I understand it. If you trust that I'm onto this here, and well, it's not that I'm onto. This is what I learned through my teacher, but it's also what I've learned from the experience of taking this up for over 50 years now. And this is where I'm going to be speaking from, and I won't compromise that. So that's all I can say. But again, I don't stop you. I don't try to direct anybody. I'm not a counselor. I'm not going to tell you what to do or not to do. But if you ask me, I'll tell you, from my understanding. That's all I can do.
And I totally understand that. So I'll be disabling that option. So, and it is actually starting to feel a little odd because I've been doing that for about 8 years now, and it's
Yeah.
starting to feel.
Let it weaken. Let it drop away. Yeah.
But regardless, thank you very much, and
Good to see you, Tyler.
We'll be seeing you in class on Monday night.
Oh, great. Okay. I'll look forward to seeing you.
My question was, forgetting about using the internet to sit together, I mean, what did you think about just agreeing that, like at Dharma Field, we're going to say, we're all going to sit following, in our own homes, following, for example, the meditation schedule, and knowing that we would all, that there were others sitting at the same time.
Well, see that, and that's the problem. Knowing that, so this isn't Yakusan sitting. We're doing something now. We're sitting down with ideas, knowing that there's others sitting. Drop everything.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how else I can say this, but that's what I'm talking about.
No,
this is what we need to do.
What I'm saying is, if you happen to
be in a room with other people, but that's fine. In fact, that could be even helpful. But you can't really do that this way. Believe me, I've looked at it.
Well, that's why I say I
want to accommodate you guys as best I can, but I won't compromise what I know. So.
Okay, no, that's why I say I think you already answered my question, so you can move on to the next.
Okay.
I don't have anything further.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Hey, good morning. Welcome from Kansas City. Got a quick comment. The participant who had commented about the app that he's got on his phone. I have a very similar experience. Years ago, I downloaded an app that it's got a nice timer, but it's got a nice little gong at the end of it. But when you're done, you can look at the logs and the statistics, and you can see how many days, average duration per day, how many times you sat per day, the longest streak. And after about 39 days, I realized that I was paying more attention to that than just being there in the moment. And I've gotten to practice now. Every morning when I get done with my sitting, I just erase it. Because those types of distractions just really take away from just being right there in the moment. And
absolutely.
Your comments today, yesterday I sat with a lay group here in Kansas City. We did it through Zoom again, and it just felt awkward, especially the walking meditation. That just didn't quite translate. Yeah. And your words today just really put it into a perspective for me. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Thank you very much. And I too will see you tomorrow night.
Okay. Well, I'll be looking for you, Peter. Except right now I can't see you, but I'll be looking for your name, I guess. So it's good to hear from you, Peter.
So Steve, I just wanted to ask, what is the advantage of sitting with others? If you could be more specific about that, because I've never had that here. So it seemed like a Zoom group would be a little bit better than quote unquote nothing. I get where you're coming from, but I just wanted to see if you could elaborate on that a bit more.
Yeah, well, this is another point that's not easy to understand, but as the Buddha spoke of, I think I quoted in my book, Buddhism Plain and Simple, when he's talking about right speech. We don't speak, for your own advantage, for someone else's advantage, or for any advantage whatsoever. But it doesn't apply just to right speech. It's in just looking for advantage at all. And, don't put your mind on that. Just do it. This is a very simple practice. You can, it might be difficult to carry out at first, but maybe you can find a way to make yourself comfortable. But sitting in an upright, alert posture, I go through all these things in my book on meditation. But the idea of looking for advantage, this is why we don't say, in fact, we have an expression that Zazen is useless. We don't use it for any purpose to gain some advantage or to acquire some trait or quality or whatever. And it isn't that these things are wrong or that such things, whatever you might want to call advantage, it's just maybe some idea that we have what exactly constitutes an advantage anyway. But what we're talking about is getting our mind away from that, thinking in these ways, looking at things in these ways. And for those who who have had profound awakenings and have left some messages behind as to what might be helpful in doing this, and starting with the Buddha saying, look not to for any advantage whatsoever. There, of course, he was referring to speech, but in speaking in a particular way. But just don't look for these kinds of things. This does touch on what Dogen was saying, and I've quoted this now several times today, that we just drop your ideas, he says. And this is why we don't wake up, is because we're holding to, so we might have something in the back of our mind, well, this will advantage me in some way. This will be good for me in some way. Just drop this kind of thinking. Be aware when we've engaged it, and then just don't take it up. If I were to, and sometimes I have in situations where maybe I can follow up with somebody, I might give them the impression that this would help them in some way. And maybe we could say that it appears to be this way, because I can tell you, if you take up a life of meditation, you will in the long run become more calm, more sane, more settled and with it in the moment and all of that. But if we approach it with ideas like this, you'll never find this, because the mind that is looking for something like this is the opposite of all those things I just listed. And so whatever you might want to put there that would be an advantage for me, just don't engage the mind in that way. We can all see what this practice is and what it looks like after it's been carried out, extensively for a long time and that sort of thing. Gradually, those who take this up don't quite live in a way that we might otherwise. I can't imagine what my life would be like now. I suspect I'd probably be dead by now. Probably would have died of cancer a long time ago had I not really taken this way up. I don't know, but it wouldn't be the mind that I can tap into now. And but that doesn't come about by trying to seek some advantage or something like that. When I met my teacher, finally, he started making this pretty clear to me. It's just a matter of just take it up, just do this, sit down, and do this doing nothing, as Yakusan said. So without seeking advantage. The mind that seeks advantage, Buddhists don't seek, I already mentioned that today, but the mind that seeks advantage is an ordinary mind. And that isn't going to change if it continues to seek advantage. We continue with an ordinary mind, a mind that is not awake, that is. And it's not even that an ordinary mind is bad or wrong or whatever, it's just ordinary, but it's a very common way that we are, We're always looking for that protection of self or the way to advantage the self and this sort of thing. But if we really want to wake up and not to be confused and vexed by this reality, which otherwise just seems startlingly just strange and weird, and what is it? How do we get here? All of that kind of stuff. If you want to break through all of that, and where you're not really disturbed by any of the things that might be coming along in life, at least to the extent that we're totally tossed away by those things, the COVID virus or anything else, then we have to just watch how our mind is operating and start to recognize when we are trying to bring about a particular end that we have in mind that might not have anything to do with reality, other than just some, glorious state that we have in our mind or something like that we want to achieve or something along those lines. So I don't know, does that help, Martin? It's good to see you, Martin. Yeah.
Same here. Thank you. It does help a bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Steve. Thanks. It's great to see everyone. I have a question and maybe a comment. When I take a 30-minute or more walk every day, and one of my goals is just to maintain a continuity of awareness. I try to do that throughout the day, but particularly on the walk. And when I do that, I just notice how much more I enjoy the walk. And also what I become aware of is that when I lose awareness, I realize it's only because of the conceptual. It's because I get lost in some thought. And when I tell myself, and it helps, that the mind is thinking, when I come back to that, now it's back to awareness. I'm aware the mind is thinking. And if I don't get, I'm aware of thinking, but not, and I let go of the content of the thought, then I'm back to that continuity of awareness. And same with like the meditation. One of the things, a question I'd like to ask, when I'm meditating, I have these images. I mean, they're visual images of things I've never seen before. You know, it could be people, it could be, you know, scenes of everything. And I'm wondering, that's just another losing of that continuity of awareness. Is that correct, or am I on the right track there, or what?
Yeah, I was just saying that, yeah, this is all very normal, you know, and things will come up in the mind, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We don't make any effort to try to clear out your mind, but just don't stay, you know, focused on things or continue to activate your mind to track anything there. But you're quite right that to the degree that we have drifted off into thought of some kind, we aren't as aware. Our awareness diminishes quite a bit. And, you know, so it is a matter of just being aware of that and recognizing, you know, but it's good too if you notice when it kind of diminishes, you know, the mind or your awareness of what is taking place. But very quickly, just to give an example, I mean, last time I talked here, I mentioned when I was 32 and I found out I had cancer, and at that time I was experiencing various kinds of pains and difficulties, but I was into this practice at that time. But I noticed, particularly while I was sitting in meditation, that at times when my mind would drift away into kind of, you know, fearful thoughts of, you know, what's going to happen to me and stuff like this, then I'd noticed that the pain would come up. And but then when I realized what I was doing, I could just bring my mind back to settling down and being quiet and still. The actual physical pain itself subsided, and so it was just kind of these two things playing off against each other that I found rather astounding, because I wasn't quite so aware of that before. But it's really true. So it's just a matter of these things come up in your mind. Don't be bothered by them. Don't be disturbed. Perfectly natural. And if you don't cling to them or build on them or are bothered by them, these things just come and go. And the mind continues to do that. I've been at this over 50 years now, and sitting in meditation. Yeah, things still come and drift by the mind every now and then. I just try and, I don't try, but as much as I can, I just don't engage them for too long. They go, and no need to be disturbed.
Okay,
So I
thank you.
hope I answered there, Vince.
Yes, you did, Steve. Thank you very much.
I'm just happy that you were all here today, and I think that this use of Zoom it seems to work pretty well. So I'm happy that we have this and we can make use of this now, at least during this age of COVID here. So okay, so thank you all very much.